Before we get into the video, could everyone please subscribe to my Endless Diary Tales channel? Thank you so much. When I was alive, William got tired of me, handed me divorce papers, and married the woman he loved who was pregnant. I died in a car accident on his wedding day, but he went crazy after I died. Later I came back to life. William assured me I didn't get together with her. I'll show you the call records. I'll show you the car records. I'll show you the monitor records of my daily route. He begged exhaustively. Can we start over? I refused. When I loved him, he was tired of me. Now that he sincerely offers his heart, I don't want it anymore. William habitually tried to kiss me goodbye, but I smiled and dodged. His brow furrowed. He turned cold. How else are you going to make trouble? I've already apologized for Grace. I smiled lightly and said, I'm not making trouble. I just have a cold and don't want to give it to you. William stared at me. Nancy, if you're afraid I'll betray you, this isn't a good way to keep me, you know? I raised my head to him, laughed out loud and said, Okay, go to work. Grace is still waiting for you. William's expression darkened. He slammed the door and left. I kept smiling, then went to his brother Tom's room and gently asked him, Are you hungry? Let's go downstairs for breakfast. Tom, standing by the window, turned his face at my words. His dark and calm eyes softened slightly when he looked at me and nodded gently. Okay. As I went downstairs with Tom, William called me again. Nancy, sorry for drinking with Grace and coming home late the other day, but I was just drunk. Nothing happened. This is my third apology to you. Please stop being childish and creating trouble. Got it. I handed the milk to Tom, feeling nothing inside, even finding it somewhat funny. I knew nothing happened between them now, but I also knew what would happen in the future. Because I was someone who had died once, this was my resurrection. In the last life, I watched William and Grace getting closer and closer. I cried, shouted, tried to stop them, but could do nothing. I could only watch William grow more tired and distant, spending more and more nights away. Eventually, he handed me divorce papers when Grace got pregnant. I went to find William on their wedding day to try to make him change his mind, but had a car accident. In the emergency room with my last strength I tried to call him, but he didn't answer. It was Grace who did, in a victorious tone. Please don't disturb my husband. Keep your distance from married men. I threw the phone in despair, lost all will to live. As I closed my eyes for the last time, feeling pain and cold, lying lonely in the hospital, my parents were abroad. Everyone was at William's wedding. The doctors told everyone but Tom, the neglected illegitimate child, who rushed to the hospital to say his final goodbye. I remember him whispering softly in my ear, Rest assured, I will seek revenge for you, even if I have to upturn the whole family. I glanced at his face, the handsome face now filled with resentment. I couldn't thank him. Unwillingly, I closed my eyes. My ultimate wish before leaving. I will never love William again. To my surprise, my wish was heard by the heavens and I was reborn. When I opened my eyes again, it was last night. William and I had our first fight because of Grace. They went out for dinner after work, got drunk, and returned home in the middle of the night, smelling of perfume. I made a scene, cried nonstop, while William just rubbed his forehead impatiently, saying he got drunk and Grace took care of him at her place for a few hours. That's when I came through. Reviewing the past life, I was certain that at this point, William and Grace had not started a relationship yet. I had a chance to save or stop it. But I just shut my mouth, wiped my tears quietly, took the blanket, and went to the guest room to sleep, ignoring all of William's knocks on the door. I remembered the vow I made in my past life. If there is another life, I will never love William again. I didn't care how things developed between him and Grace. I could even stir things up. This new life was hard. I didn't want to be in a love whirlpool. I wanted to live for myself and repay the last person who had sent me off. Tom and I were having breakfast in the restaurant. He kept his head down, revealing a section of his white slender neck, his raven-like eyelashes covering his deep eyes, making it hard to discern his expression. Ever since he was brought back home, he had been silent and on edge. They shunned his background. Almost no one remembered him except me, bringing him gifts on holidays and sending him medicine when he was sick. A small effort that led to a final send-off. It was worth it. He had a small company handed down by the family that was on the verge of bankruptcy, which was considered his inheritance. I noticed he had trouble sleeping, often waking up in the middle of the night to drink water. Seeing his pale face and dark circles under his eyes, I thought to myself, since you don't look good, maybe your company is not operating well? Do you need help? I can invest. My parents are overseas, and I manage all the industries in our country. In my past life, I graduated from a prestigious university, but I invested all my efforts in William. However, William didn't like me being in the spotlight. He didn't like strong women. So I handed over the company to him and willingly played the role of a docile wife, dropping him off at work and waiting for him to come home. But in the end, he grew tired of me. He thought I was confined to the home, narrow-minded, and only focused on love. Grace, on the other hand, was different. She worked with him in the business world, had a different perspective, and earned his admiration. In this life, I refused to be trapped at home again. I want to return to my company. Tom glanced at me, then lowered his eyes. It was just a nightmare. You should focus on yourself when you have the time. It's been 3 years of marriage, and you haven't visited your own businesses, right? I wiped my mouth. I will reclaim my businesses. If you need investment, come and find me. I have a responsibility. Tom looked deeply into my eyes, lowered his head to eat, appearing to contemplate something. After a while he spoke. Can I rent 2 floors of the office building under your name at market price? I explained the rent for my company is too expensive, and I've been wanting to move to a different place. I thought if I rented to him, he would be going up and down the building with my company, making it easier for me to repay him. So I readily agreed, made a call to the company's secretary, and gave instructions. Not more than 10 minutes later, William's call came in. Are you going to rent the office building to Tom? I was standing in front of the dressing mirror, trying on professional attire I hadn't worn in a long time, and casually replied, yes. What's Tom's background? Why are you dealing with him? William's voice was filled with anger. You've been at home for too long, not good at reading people. My dad has so many illegitimate children, but only he managed to carve a place in our family. His methods are beyond your imagination. He ordered me, just stay at home, don't get involved in business matters. Go buy a bag, some clothes, pamper yourself. I chuckled, but that's my business. I added. At least it was before we got married. Williams hesitated for a moment, then asked me indifferently, are you still mad at me? No, I repliei earnestly. I won't be upset regardless of how things are between you and Grace. I just want to take back my business. Do you think I embezzled your money? Williams asked sternly. You wouldn't. I shook my head. I don't have such thoughts. I just want my business back. It's that simple. In the previous life, he never embezzled my businesses. When we divorced, he returned them all to me. Williams, apart from cheating and causing my car accident, hadn't made any other mistakes. But this mistake was enough for me to never forgive him. William's voice turned cold. As you wish, but my people will leave one by one. This was the first time I disobeyed him. The punishment he gave me, I nodded with a smile. As you wish. True to his word, William swiftly transferred a third of his people within a few hours, leaving me with a big headache. But I wasn't worried. Once you've experienced death, you realize there's nothing scarier than that. During the handover, his people advised me the company is more stable in William's hands. You should relax at home and wait for him to bring back the money. I gestured politely, saying, I wish you all the best. I remained unmoved, irritating William. He called, don't challenge the field you're not suited for. You're just a pampered pet rabbit. You should stay at home being cute. While looking at the financial statements of the company, jotting down key points in my notebook, I laughed and asked, what about Grace? How can she accompany you to battle in the business world? He blurted out, she's a cunning fox born to hunt. I reminded him slowly that Grace and I were classmates in college. I was academically superior to her even in school. Even Grace's job was recommended by me and William. Perhaps William didn't know that the cute and carefree rabbit he imagined me to be also had a streak of courage, hence the saying, a rabbit kicking an eagle. In the past life, I used that courage to face death. This lifetime, I'll use it to face life. Late that night, William returned home at 1 a.m. He smelled of Grace's favorite perfume and a hint of alcohol. I was sitting under the light reviewing reports when I casually said, Take a bath before sleeping. William's eyebrows furrowed coldly. Why aren't you causing a scene tonight? I stretched lazily. I have other things on my mind. Business dinners are normal, right? William stared at me as if not used to this new version of me. He seemed to still be waiting for me to cry and ask for explanations. Instead, I walked into the bathroom, removed the face mask, and went about my skincare routine calmly. He followed me, standing at the doorway watching me through the mirror as he began to explain. I dined with a client. Grace got drunk, so I took her home. I gave him a thumbs up. My husband is the best boss. Good luck to you and your secretary. Good luck speeding towards Grace getting pregnant soon. By then, I would have sorted out the company affairs, hired new people, and could present him with the remaining 2/3 of the company's management team along with the divorce agreement, all as a gift. But William's expression darkened. Good luck isn't used in this context. He reached out to me. Nancy, don't be stubborn. Be good, okay? I smiled. William didn't know the truth about himself. He loved the cunning fox while expecting me to be the good girl. I walked past him, picked up the duvet and said, "You go to sleep first. I'm still recovering from a cold. I'll sleep in the adjacent room." William's face turned dark. He grabbed my arm, gritting his teeth. "Do you think I will never change and that's why you're so cocky?" I raised an eyebrow at him. "That's right." I pushed his hand away and went to the guest room. I was confident because my confidence was based on my heart, which no longer loved. Dead hearts fear nothing. I heard William's heavy footsteps downstairs, the door closing, and the car starting all in one swift motion. After a while, I saw Grace's social media account. No image, just 2 words. Heartbreaking. I commented with a grin. Check out instant heart healing medicine. She replied with an awkward smile. I turned off the phone, lit a cigarette, and watched the amber flicker in the darkness. There's a place in my heart that's slowly cracking open. Old wounds are oozing out. In this life, I accelerated William's pace of cheating. I once hoped that in a different life things would be different. But nothing's changed. He's still heading towards Grace right under my nose. The next morning, Tom and I showed up at the company together. The entire office building belongs to me, and luckily there were 2 empty floors, so I rented them out to him. William didn't return all night and only called me around noon, gritting his teeth. "What's your relationship with Tom? Why are you being disobedient because of him?" I calmly replied. "The vacant floor just means losing money. If Tom can pay market price, then I'll rent it to him. What's the problem? You're too concerned. Isn't he your brother? I've told you he's cunning. Keep your distance from him," William said coldly. "If he's suddenly moving downstairs to your building, he definitely has ulterior motives. Don't come crying to me later to clean up the mess." I politely smiled and said, "All right. Thank you for the warning. Is there anything else, William?" "Nancy, when will you stop being unreasonable?" William was close to losing his temper. "My patience has limits." Glancing at Tom, who was eavesdropping nearby, I gestured for him to leave and chuckled. "Honey, real unreasonableness looks like this. Where were you last night? Show me the car's GPS. Your call records." William fell silent. After a while, he sighed and reluctantly told me to behave, then hung up the phone. I sighed too. In the previous life, his subtle traces drove me to the brink of insanity, and I once pushed him to the limit like this. I still remember the disdain in his eyes. He said Grace would never inspect him like this. He said that even if something happened between him and Grace, it was because I forced his hand. Now I don't investigate anything about him, but he doesn't seem too pleased either. Tom sat across from me, took a sip of tea and said, "You're unhappy." Trying to force a smile, I replied, "Corals aren't supposed to make you happy." Tom lowered his gaze and covered his emotions. He said, "I have ulterior motives towards you." I shrugged it off and casually asked, "Do you?" Tom suddenly looked up, his dark eyes reflecting my figure. "Yes." Not holding back? I smiled and said, "What do you want? Tell me and I'll offer it to you. I remember wrongs and more so kindness. The past life's gratitude must be repaid in this one." Tom just quietly sipped his tea, not saying a word, but with a slight attractive smile on his lips. In the following days, I was so busy that I'd return home around 10 every night, but William returned even later than me. I didn't bother with him. Just locked myself in the guest room and went to sleep after freshening up. William seems to be in pain. I'm your husband. I should be sleeping with you. I've caught a cold. You've had a cold for 2 months. William suddenly explodes. I'll show you the call records. I'll show you the tracking of my daily route. I even copied the surveillance footage of Grace's house for you. He's exhausted. Let me in, okay? I didn't open the door. When I wanted him, he found me annoying. Now that he offers himself, I'm not interested. William slept outside my door all night, with bloodshot eyes. The next morning, he looked at me intently, not missing any expression on my face. Have you stopped loving me? I gently stroked his face and smiled. Don't overthink it. I just have a cold. In a previous life, I might have been moved, hugged him, and cried bitterly. But in this life, I just quietly watched him storm off after slamming the door. Having died once, people can become more ruthless. William didn't come home for several days. Grace called me, concerned. What's going on between you and William? He's been so down these days, always calling me to drink late at night. I stared at the files on the computer and asked her several business-related questions. Grace is competent at work, so why not utilize her skills? Grace was puzzled by my response. You care more about your company than about the fact that William isn't coming home? She implied something. He always calls me to drink and constantly complains that you are immature. Aren't you afraid of being replaced in the long run? Perhaps by me, right? I stared at the computer absent-mindedly and asked. Grace paused. I just can't bear to see William in pain. I just want to comfort him. I smiled and repeated her words from a past life verbatim. Please refrain from bothering my husband. Keep your distance from married people. Grace was speechless. She didn't say anything and hung up. I stared at the computer for a while. In this life, I still couldn't handle Grace's provocations. The crack in my heart began to ache again. It turns out that in this life, one can still remember the pain from the previous life so vividly. At the peak of my pain, William called. Grace said, You misunderstood her earlier, and even scolded her? I nodded and waited for William to explode. In a previous life, I was incited by her, scolded her harshly, and then William exploded, calling me ignorant and vulgar. But now William smiled as he said, Nancy, you still care about me, don't you? He smiled contentedly. Not arguing back is equivalent to admitting. I nodded, okay. Things at the company have settled down recently. With the help of my parents, I found some reliable people, and Tom even lent me a few highly capable executives. With the company in good shape, it was time to clarify some things. As it approached closing time, I packed up and prepared to go to the restaurant William had reserved. Tom suddenly came upstairs and saw me reapplying lipstick. While looking at me, he said, William is downstairs with a bunch of roses and a sports car. I know. I closed the lipstick and said, I'm having dinner with him tonight. Tom lowered his head and inquired with a puzzled expression. Have you made up? No, I need to discuss something. Tom shook his head. With his hands in his pockets and deep, unreadable eyes, he asked, Do you still have feelings for William? What's that? You want relationship advice. I chuckled. Tom also laughed, with a hint of mystery in his smile. If, and I mean if, one day I become an enemy of William, will you hold a grudge against me? I had already guessed some of it. Tom's dealings in the capital market couldn't avoid William's industries. As he spoke of them, his tone became increasingly indifferent, devoid of any affection, openly and unashamedly cold. Wolves are bound to hunt sooner or later. I raised a finger to my lips and said, Don't tell anyone about this. I'll act like I haven't heard. In the split second as I turned around, Tom's barely audible voice reached my ears. You can never imagine why I'm going after him. My hearing is sharp, I heard him. I turned my head in confusion. Why? Tom smiled faintly at me. I said it was because I had nightmares. Do you believe that? A ludicrous excuse, but I still nodded. Ido. Because in his eyes, I saw not only my shadow but also deep-seated unease and fear. It must have been a very terrifying dream. Downstairs, William stood by the sports car with a huge bunch of roses, attracting the attention of passers-by. They all looked at me with envy, but I felt it was unnecessary. When he first pursued me, he was sincere, passionate, and willing to bare his heart and soul. Everyone said I would be very happy, and I thought so too. But then he cheated. I died. The past moments of tenderness turned into smoke and dissipated. I took the flowers, threw them into the car, and said, "No need to spend so much, it's just for show." He put his arm around me. I dodged and got into the car. I saw the disappointment on William's face but pretended not to notice. At the restaurant, William ordered a table full of dishes I loved. I fell silent. In a previous life, when I wanted to reconcile with him, I once invited him to dinner here. In the same spot, he inadvertently ordered a table full of dishes Grace loved. It broke my heart. We argued, but he didn't admit it. After that falling out, Grace got pregnant. Now, sitting in the familiar place, looking at the table of dishes catering to my taste, I couldn't eat. There was a vague ache in my heart. I knew it was the naive girl from the past crying in my heart. William sighed. "It seems like we haven't been out together in a long time." I nodded. "Since you met Grace." A hint of embarrassment flashed across William's face. "I really have nothing with her. It started with admiration, but then it was all just to make you jealous." He reached out his hand and covered mine. His palm was warm just like before. "Unfortunately, I'm not the same person I used to be." I pulled my hand away, sighed, and said, "How nice it would have been if you had said that in a previous life." "What?" William asked in confusion. I sat up straight. "It's nothing. I wanted to talk to you about something today. I have something to say as well." "Nancy, I want to pursue you again," William said. I interrupted him. "But I want a divorce." William was stunned and seemed to not understand. He even asked me with a smile, "What did you say?" Leaning forward, I said, "I want a divorce, William. I want to divorce you." William hesitated and seemed to retreat. I leaned forward again, saying, "William, we don't need to continue. I've drafted the divorce agreement. If your people at my company need it, I can return it to them." Furrowing his brows, William took out a cigarette, lit it, took a deep drag, remembered it was a non-smoking restaurant, and put it out. He took a deep breath and asked with a slight frown, "Why? Is it because of Grace?" I hesitated. It made some sense. After all, in my previous life, Grace's pregnancy led to my divorce and subsequent car accident. William saw my hesitation, slammed the table heavily, and growled, "I really didn't touch her. I just wanted to see you in a fuss." Confused, I said, "But you don't like me fussing, do you? Did you have a mental breakdown in the last life? Or did you mutate in this life? I don't like you being hysterical, but damn. Can't you have any feelings at all?" William seemed deeply hurt. I listened, puzzled. After a moment, something dawned on me. "No, it's not because of Grace, William. It's all because of you." I took out the divorce agreement from my bag, just like the last lifetime, and handed it to William. "Take a look. I've considered both our interests. If you have objections, we can discuss." This is what he gave me in the last life. William took the divorce agreement, glanced at it roughly, then smirked coldly. "Looks like you've planned this for a long time. Very thoughtful." I closed my eyes. If this divorce agreement required long-term planning, then it was also him who planned it for a long time in the last life. He looked at me and chuckled sarcastically. "I don't know why you want a divorce, Nancy, but it's not possible." He tore the agreement to pieces, scattering it on the table in a way that couldn't be put back together, and smiled at me. "Not possible, Nancy. We promised each other before we got married. No mention of divorce, remember? You forgot." First, I coldly stood up, saying tearing the agreement won't stop me from drafting a new one. It's useless. William stood up. Let's go back home." He didn't mention the agreement again, as if the whole thing hadn't happened. On the way home, he kept talking about things that might interest me. Luxury goods, clothes, handbags, jewelry, and fashion shows. But now, I was only interested in my company. I didn't really understand what he was talking about. When we got back, he watched me go to bed without saying anything, just sighed imperceptibly. "Hope your cold gets better soon." After that day, William changed. He came home every day at 8, always holding a gift. Sometimes limited edition bags, sometimes designer jewelry, sometimes flowers flown in from Europe. I occasionally stayed late at work, and he would quietly wait at home. When I returned, he would present the gift. If I refused, he would insist, saying, I didn't know waiting for someone to come home would be so uncomfortable. I'll cut down on unnecessary social events in the future. I lowered my head and said there was a time when I couldn't sleep all night suffering. William asked, "When was that?" I smiled at him and said, "It's a story from the last life." William thought I was joking, gave me the gift with a hint of pleading in his eyes. "Nancy, when will your cold get better?" I placed the gift on the couch and looked at him sincerely. "It won't get better in this life." William's eyes dimmed, but he forced a smile. "I don't believe that. I'll wait for you." I didn't say anything and went into the guest room. A few days later, William told me about an important cocktail party that required us to attend as a couple. I wanted him to bring Grace, but William insisted that others were bringing their wives and he couldn't take his secretary. Being in charge of my own company now, I understood the importance of networking. I also wanted to attend the cocktail party to make connections, so I nodded in agreement. That evening, I attended the party with William. William looked at me with fascination. "You look really beautiful." I just smiled nonchalantly. I used to devote all my time to beauty treatments and makeup, but William barely noticed. I was just wearing a gown and light makeup tonight, not as elaborate as in the past life, but he was captivated. Humans are truly strange and perplexing creatures. Tom was also at the dinner, raised his glass to me. His eyes seemingly bottomless, emotions unreadable, but he didn't bring a partner. I doubted if William had lied to me about the rule of having to bring a partner because even Grace was there alone. Seeing William holding on to me, Grace's eyes dimmed for a moment. Then she smiled and came over to greet us. "William, your wife looks lovely tonight." She bit her lip, looking at William pitifully, adding a touch of control and forbearance. William gave her a fleeting glance, then quickly looked away and nodded. "Yes, she's beautiful." Grace, forcing a smile, said, "Congratulations on reconciling with you." She continued, "William would come to my house drunk and chat about his wife all night. We haven't reconciled." I interrupted her. Grace was taken aback, a flash of resentment in her eyes. I smiled and repeated, "No reconciliation. I'm here purely for business. You can rest assured." I thought Grace would be delighted, but she was rather regretful and angry, saying, "Are you being too cruel to William? Have you considered his dignity as a man?" Indignantly, she made me laugh. I shrugged. "Why don't you consider it? Do you need my input? You really don't know how to appreciate things." Grace got angry, saying how many people love William, but I treat his love like garbage, not realizing the good thing right in front of me. I turned to ask William, "Does your secretary have the right to speak to me like that?" Grace also looked at him, her eyes full of pity and affection. If I were a man, I wouldn't be able to pass this test. Grace should be an actress. But William's face turned cold and he scolded her. "This is my family affair. Why are you meddling? Know your place. Don't get involved in things you shouldn't." Grace and I were both stunned. William looked at me again. "If you don't like her, I can make her leave the company, even leave the city, never to bother you again." His gaze towards me was full of affection, but towards Grace it was impatient. I should be happy because this symbolizes my complete victory over my rival after being reborn, right? But I couldn't be happy. I just felt indifferent. It was the same as my past life. Only Grace and I had switched places. Whether it was me or Grace who was disliked by him, there was no difference. I couldn't be happy. I thought more about the bitterness of being rejected in my past life. Grace ran away crying and William grabbed my arm. "Fanny, will your cold get better like this?" I lowered my eyes. How could it get better? It never could in this lifetime. Some things are irreparable, like a life. I shook my head. "It won't get better, never will." William, stop dreaming. Let's get divorced. William was taken aback. His face gradually darkened. He pulled me to a corner. "Nancy, how could you doubt me when it comes to Grace? What do you want from me?" I pushed William away, the accumulated wounds from the past bursting out at that moment. "I don't want anything from you, just get a divorce. What you do with Grace has nothing to do with me. I just want to leave you, do you understand?" William pulled me back, gritting his teeth. "You're dreaming." He suddenly lowered his head and kissed my lips, vaguely proclaiming to me, "Nancy, you will never get a divorce in this lifetime." I felt disgusted. These lips had also kissed Grace. Even if it was in a previous life, I couldn't forgive that. That's how petty I am. Without thinking, I raised my hand and gave William a hard slap across his face. The sound was clear and loud, causing William's face to swell immediately. I wiped my lips forcefully, as if trying to scrub off a layer of skin. "Stay away from me." William's face turned pale and then purple. Eventually, his eyes looked at me with a cold and indifferent gaze. He sneered, "Nancy, well done. No one has ever hit me before." He took a step back, his eyes fixed on me. "Since you don't want me, I'll show you that I can have anyone I want in my bed." With that said, he turned and walked briskly towards Grace, wrapping her in his arms and leaving the banquet hall. I crouched down, tears inexplicably falling down my cheeks. I didn't know why I was crying, but the tears came without warning. I guessed it was the foolish girl from my past life who was crying. People started to notice me as I was the only one crouching at the party. Whispers started around me. Some came up to inquire about my well-being, but I ignored them, just wanting to cry my heart out. Tom pushed through the crowd, walked up to me, and extended his hand, saying, "I'll take you home." With teary eyes, I looked up and saw his handsome face full of fierceness, just like in the past life. Memories from both past lives intertwined, and I cried uncontrollably. I grabbed his hand and let him pull me into his arms. His voice was cold, as if suppressing anger. "Don't worry. I'll turn the whole world upside down to help you seek revenge." I trembled. Was it a coincidence? Why did his words sound exactly the same as in my past life? I wanted to ask him, but I couldn't speak through tears. I let him take me home. He wiped away my ruined makeup and tears with a damp cloth, held me in his arms like a child, saying, "Nancy, don't cry. I'll help you vent your anger, seek revenge. Don't cry." Exhausted and burdened by memories of 2 lifetimes, I nestled in his arms and cried myself to sleep. In a daze, I felt him pick me up, carry me to the guest room, tuck me in, and lock the door. I didn't sleep soundly, and in the middle of the night, I was startled by a loud knocking on the door. William was there again, drunkenly shouting, "Open the door, Nancy. Open the door for me. I'm your husband. I want to come in," he shouted hoarsely. "I can't bring myself to hurt Grace. You're all on my mind. You rejected me. Open the door, Nancy. I won't allow you to reject me." Tears streamed down my face once again. Memories of lying alone in the hospital, waiting to die, overwhelmed me. I flung the door open and slapped William across the face. William stood there shocked. Before he could react, I slapped him again. With tears streaming down my face, I cried out, "William, I lost my life for you. A life. Can you get it back?" I sobbed. "When I was dying in the cold hospital, you were getting married to Grace. I called you, begging for a change of heart, but you wouldn't even pick up the phone. You cut off my lifeline. I didn't die in a car accident. I died at your hands." William stood there dumbfounded, opened his mouth but didn't know what to say. I crouched down, covering my face. Some things once done have a predestined end, and no one can change that. William tried to reach out to help me. "Nancy, I understand something is wrong with you mentally, right? Are you so afraid of me and Grace being together that you're hallucinating? It's okay, Nancy. Tomorrow I'll arrange for a doctor. We'll go get you checked, and once you see the doctor, everything will be fine." His words were cut off abruptly as the person suddenly collapsed in front of me. Tom stood behind him, clapping his hands expressionlessly. "He talks too much. Let him rest for a while." I cautiously reached out to check William's breath and breathed a sigh of relief. He was still alive. Tom gave William a kick to the side and then squatted down beside me. I noticed he was trembling, his hands shaking violently as he held me tightly, as if we were survivors of a disaster. Still shaken by the experience, I tried to get him to let go of me a few times, but he seemed to ignore my attempts and just kept holding me until dawn. I fell asleep, and before I drifted off, I heard his hoarse voice. That dream, it was real. I slept in Tom's arms for 2 hours, then woke up unable to sleep. The heaviness in my heart seemed to have dissipated, and I no longer felt the sorrow of the foolish girl from the past life crying. Perhaps she had finally found peace and decided to disappear from this world. After her departure, it was my turn to leave. I looked at Tom, who was still awake, his eyes that were once clear now bloodshot. As I opened my eyes, He held me tighter, as if afraid that I would also disappear. I weakly smiled at him. "Can you help me move out?" Tom nodded, stood up, and we walked past the still unconscious William in the hallway to start packing. In less than half an hour, I moved back to my parents' empty house. Before leaving, I took a look at the house that had been tidied up and no longer bore any signs of my existence. I chuckled bitterly, turned towards the rising sun, and walked out. Every day afterward felt brand new. After I moved out, William immediately fired Grace. Then he tried to pester me, beg me, and coax me. But he didn't dare to go too far, always feeling that I had a mental illness and provoking me would trigger an episode. Apart from divorce, he agreed to everything I demanded, and if I got upset, he would leave immediately. Later, he didn't have much time to focus on his feelings. Tom started his revenge on William, a carefully planned scheme that left William scrambling. No one had expected that the once neglected child would one day grow into a wolf and turn back to devour his own family without reason. This revenge lasted for a year. Tom became a rising star in the business world while William was left in shambles, never to recover. It was me who made Tom stop, not out of sympathy for William, but out of concern for Tom. Ever since that night he held me. His eyes were filled with hostility that never seemed to fade, only growing stronger. Sometimes he would fall silent out of nowhere, then hold me tightly, forcing me to promise to live well. I felt like the one with mental issues wasn't me, it was him. I pushed him to take a break from his scheming, but Tom refused. He was particularly afraid of me getting angry, always fearing that my anger would lead to irreparable actions. I found his paranoia amusing, not sure where he got that idea from. Tom eventually agreed to stop and rest, and William finally caught a breather and came looking for me. He was no longer the same as before. His once handsome face was now scruffy and worn out. He used to never drink during the day, but now there was a hint of alcohol on him even in the afternoon. He forced a smile. "Since you left, every day has been torment for me. I haven't slept well in a long time." He sat in the chair, eyes showing signs of prolonged insomnia, and pleaded, "Nancy, let me sleep here for a while. When you were around, I could only rest well." I sighed, not saying a word. William soon fell asleep, but it wasn't a peaceful sleep. He seemed to be tossing and turning in his dreams, his eyes rolling beneath his eyelids, eyebrows furrowed fiercely. After a while, he grew restless and began sleep-talking. "No, stop, Nancy, stop it." He even shouted, "Nancy, hold on, cooperate with the doctor. I'll come save you." He shouted for what seemed like an eternity, then he sobbed, a man who never shed tears, now weeping inconsolably. His sobs turned into heart-wrenching cries. I felt myself being swept away by his emotions, uncontrollable memories from the past swirling in my mind, from meeting, falling in love to betrayal and death. Tears streamed down my face, choking back. Would the foolish girl from before be okay now, peacefully resting in eternity? It felt like a long time had passed when William suddenly woke from his dream, eyes swollen, tears still on his face. He jumped up, frantically reaching out to touch me, examining me closely, trembling as he whispered, "Nancy, you're alive, thank goodness." His eyes reddened. "I had a dream I did something stupid in the dream which made you leave." His voice was hoarse, tears streaming down. That dream was too terrifying. Suddenly, William paused. He stared at me in disbelief, trembling and hesitating as he asked, "I remember before you left, did you say you risked your life for me, Nancy? Is that right?" Clutching my hand, he asked urgently, "Nancy, did you say you were reborn once, or did I remember wrong while drunk? You said you had a second chance at life, right?" Knowing William for so many years, spanning 2 lifetimes, I had never seen him so cautious, each word spoken as if on thin ice. I even wondered if I was still the foolish girl from the previous life. Would I forgive this disheveled man in front of me? Unfortunately, I was not her. I smiled through tears. "What do you think?" William shook his head, wanting to smile but failing. "It doesn't make sense." I wiped my tears and neither confirmed nor denied. "I can't say what's done is done. The wounds endured remain. A life lost is lost. I can't deny it, nor will I." William rose abruptly, staggering backward, shaking and continuously denying. "It's not real. This isn't logical. It's just a dream." He forced a smile. Nancy, did your mental illness infect me? I gently told him. Mental illness isn't contagious. I presented him with the divorce papers. William, I already risked my life for you once. Isn't one life enough for you to let me go? Divorce is the only way for both of us. William frantically denied. No, it's impossible. You infected me with your mental illness. I don't believe it. He stumbled and fled as if pursued by ghosts. For 3 days, William was completely missing. His family couldn't find him. 3 days later, William showed up at my office, clothes rumpled, looking utterly unrecognizable. His voice was hoarse. I dreamed for 3 days. Dreams of past and present. Tears filled his eyes. I believe you now, Nancy. William extended his hand to me. Give me the divorce agreement. I'll sign it. Nancy, I have no face to win you back. I handed him the divorce agreement, and without even looking, he signed his name. As he left, tears rolled down his face. I will never marry again, never touch another woman. Nancy, this is my remorse for you. I watched his tired figure walk away, feeling a pang in my heart but also a sense of relief. 2 lifetimes of marriage had finally come to an end. I closed my eyes weirdly and somehow drifted into a dream, perhaps due to exhaustion. In my dream, scenes from our past lives flashed before me. It continued until I was in the hospital on my deathbed, and Tom hurried to escort me on my final journey. I thought my dream would end there as my life was ending, but it didn't. I saw Tom holding my cold body, tears streaming down his face. He gently wiped the blood off my face and whispered in my ear, "When I come back for revenge, I'll tell you a secret." His tears fell on my face, cool and gentle. Later on, Tom began to retaliate against William, frantically destroying a prominent family to ruins, causing many to commit suicide or end up in jail. William, the head of the family, remained indifferent despite the collapse of his family and Grace, suffering a miscarriage due to the stress. Everyone said William had gone mad. He searched everywhere for mediums, traveling the world to find someone to connect with my spirit. He visited every corner of his home country, then packed his bags for Nepal, India, Thailand, Mexico, and wherever else he could go. When his family fell and he ran out of money, he had to work odd jobs to continue searching for me. It took him 5 years to find out that someone told him I had returned to the past. He started seeking ways to go back to the past. Another 5 years passed, and he had aged prematurely with silver hair. When Tom appeared in front of him, he coldly stared. Even if you find her, would she be willing to see you? You killed her. Would you forgive the one who took her life? William was stunned. He sat motionless all night and gave up searching for me the next day. He became an alcoholic, drinking day and night, beset by illness. He was taken to the hospital but refused treatment, abandoning all hope. As for Tom, he buried me in a sea of flowers, visiting me daily no matter how busy he was. He too drank, and when he got drunk, he would weep in front of my tombstone. Nancy, do you know why I spared William's life? 'Cause I also want to find you. I tried everything fruitlessly, so I had to rely on William. At least he, like me, hasn't forgotten you. Maybe if there's one more person in the world who thinks of you, you'll come back. He would murmur to himself in front of my grave. Nancy, when everyone else looked down on me, only you would smile at me, care if I had a fever or was hungry, sneak gifts to me and feed me medicine. He said, I promised to tell you a secret. The secret is, from the first time you smiled at me, I fell in love with you. No one smiles more beautifully than you. And so he kept watch at my grave for a lifetime, never marrying. When I woke up from the dream, exhausted and tearful, I rushed downstairs to find Tom but couldn't. I called him. Where are you? After a moment of hesitation, Tom replied, I'm in a garden. I hadn't heard of Tom visiting any garden, but a sudden intuition led me to the flower sea in the dream. I drove straight to the location and indeed found him amid a vast sea of delicate colors. His figure was slender, and his eyes seemed dazed, as if he had just awakened from a dream. Without time to be surprised, he reached out his hand to me. I just dreamed of you again. Still shaken, he continued. In the dream, I watched over you for a lifetime. Here, I don't want to have that dream again. I placed my hand in his, letting him hold it, tears streaming down my face. Did you plant this flower, see? Blushing slightly, he nodded and asked, Why did you plant it? To show someone I like. Has your loved one seen it? Tom gazed deeply into my eyes, then gently pulled me into his embrace, saying, She has seen it. She's right beside me. With a mixture of determination and a hint of nervousness, he added, But I don't know if she likes me. Do you? Like me?
I nodded firmly. I do.
As I looked at his handsome face filled with incredulous joy, even his grip around my arms was gentle, afraid of hurting me. It was this careful man who had been tainted with revenge for me, toppling his own family for my sake across 2 lifetimes. How could I not like him?
Tom, I've divorced William.
I murmured as I leaned against him. I heard his heartbeat quicken, his arms tightening around me, enveloping me entirely. Nancy, Can you? I nodded emphatically. The next moment he bent down and kissed my lips. Amidst the fragrance of flowers in shades of pink and yellow, we kissed passionately. The last chapter of the past life had finally come to a close.